Welcome back to Living 808. Time now for another edition of Living Akamai. And today, Kei Mukaigawa has invited a special guest to talk about estate planning and tips on preventing any problems that may arise.
We're so happy to have Michelle Ogata, Principal Attorney of Estate Planning Partners, joining us again today. Many of us have heard that getting your estate planning documents completed is important, but what problems can be prevented by having an estate plan?
Thank you, Kay. There are several problems having an estate plan can prevent, but one of the most common is a court proceeding called probate. Having your estate planning documents completed can prevent your loved ones from having to go through the time and expense of probate court. I'm sure many viewers have heard of probate, but don't quite understand what it entails. Probate is a court proceeding where the judge appoints what's called a personal representative who is responsible for administering the estate. I think most folks are more familiar with the term executor, but in the state of Hawaii, that person is called a personal representative. The judge oversees the distribution of the assets. Probate can be time-consuming, and the documents, or what we call pleadings, are submitted to the court, and they need to reference specific statutes and court rules. If the pleadings are not done properly, the court will bounce or deny them, which is why most people hire attorneys, which means attorney's fees, and that's where the expense comes in. Estate planning documents are also there to make it clear on who is to receive your assets when you're gone. Without a will or a trust in place, it's likely the state of Hawaii will decide who gets your assets after you're gone.
What are some of the typical estate planning documents people should have?
A power of attorney is a document attorneys commonly prepared, and it's actually recommended for everyone over the age of 18, regardless of whether they own property. A power of attorney gives someone the power to handle financial matters for you in the event you become incapacitated. And one thing to remember about a power of attorney is that it has no more power once you're gone. But it's a really important document to have if you become incapacitated. Having a power of attorney could avoid a different court proceeding called a conservatorship, which typically takes more time than probate, and the attorney's fees for a conservatorship are usually much more than probate. Another document that is typically part of an estate plan is a trust. For anyone who owns real property, we will almost always recommend a trust. By having a trust own your property, the property may pass to your beneficiaries without probate court. A trust is also commonly used for business owners, parents who have young children and don't want their kids to be able to spend everything once they're 18, those who wish to keep assets in the family, or for those who have a beneficiary with a disability. A trust is there to avoid court proceedings, and it's also there for you to be able to protect or preserve your assets for your family after you're gone. There are many other reasons to complete these documents, and there are a lot of options on how you can leave your assets to your family. Kay, you and I are doing a panel-type discussion along with Troy Wada on March 16th, and we would definitely go over these options in more detail at that time.
Perfect. You know, I'm really looking forward to that event. So powers of attorney and trust, key elements of an estate plan. But what are some of the problems or issues that families encounter that an estate plan cannot eliminate?
One of the challenges facing many families is equalization of their assets between their beneficiaries, particularly when the majority of their estate consists of real property. For most parents, having assets distributed equally to their children is important, but in many cases, the bulk of their estate is in real property, and there are not enough liquid assets to be able to equalize the inheritance the kids will receive. As an example, let's say parents have their primary residence, a rental property, and 2 children. They want to be equal with their kids, but they also want to avoid a situation where their kids own the properties together because they don't want the kids to end up in a fight over what to do with the properties. If they leave one property to one child and another property to the other child, their children will likely end up with an unequal amount from their parents. There's language that can be included in a trust, but there are also other options available to be able to equalize their estate for their children. Not only are there tax benefits with these options, but they are great tools in making it easier for their family and certainly to avoid family conflict. This is another topic we will be covering on March 16th.
Great information, and a reminder that it's really important that people have their trust reviewed regularly. Thanks for joining us, Michelle. If you would like to talk to Michelle Ogata or attend our March 16th event, give us a call at 808-725-2000. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Angle Invokers Honolulu is here to help you live Akamai.
Good stuff, good information, and as always, you can check out past episodes with some really good stuff on KHON2.com. Just go to the Living 808 tab.
Yeah, and we'll have all the details, of course, on the upcoming event as well. But if you are interested in learning more, that would be a really great seminar to attend.